Before the story starts, don't forget to subscribe to the channel.
HOA tried to control my 2,100-acre lake. They regretted it immediately. The HOA thought they were powerful. They thought rules on paper were stronger than land, history, and truth. But they were wrong. This story is about a man who owned a lake. Not a small pond. Not a shared lake. A 2,100-acre private lake. And one HOAKaren who believed she could control it. The man lived a quiet life. He did not like trouble. He did not like drama. He liked peace, nature, and silence. The lake had been in his family for generations. His grandfather bought the land many years ago. Back then, there were no houses. No HOA. No neighbors. Just land, trees, water, and sky. The lake was deep and wide. It had fish, birds, and calm water. It was private. Always had been. For years, no one bothered him. Then everything changed. About 2 years ago, a new housing community was built near the lake. Nice houses. Clean roads. Perfect lawns. And an HOA. At first, the man did not care. The houses were not on his land. The HOA had nothing to do with him. Or so he thought. One morning, he found a letter in his mailbox. It was white. Official. Serious. The top of the letter said, HOA notice, immediate action required. The man was confused. He opened the letter and started reading. The letter said that the HOA had new lake rules. It said the lake must follow HOA safety standards. It said the lake must allow community access. The man stopped reading. He laughed softly. This must be a mistake, he said to himself. He looked at the letter again. It was signed by the HOA president. A woman named Karen. The man had heard about her. People said she liked control. People said she loved rules. People said she believed she was always right. The man folded the letter and placed it on the table. He decided to ignore it. After all, the lake was private. The HOA had no power over him. Or so he believed. 3 days later, another letter arrived. This one was stronger. The letter said the man was now out of compliance. It said fines would start soon. It said legal action was possible. The man did not smile this time. He felt something was wrong. Still, he stayed calm. He decided not to respond. Sometimes silence is better than words. But the HOA did not like silence. One afternoon, while the man was walking near the lake, he saw a group of people near the fence. They were wearing bright shirts. They had clipboards. They were talking loudly. And in the middle of them stood Karen. She pointed at the lake. She spoke with confidence. She spoke like she owned the place. The man walked closer. Karen noticed him. She smiled, but it was not a friendly smile. Are you the lake owner? She asked. Yes, the man replied calmly. Karen nodded. I'm the HOA president, she said. We need to talk. The man waited. Karen began explaining HOA rules. She talked about safety. She talked about community rights. She talked about shared access. The man listened quietly. When she finished, he spoke. This lake is private property, he said. It does not belong to the HOA. Karen's smile disappeared. That's not what we believe, she said. The man raised an eyebrow. Belief does not change ownership, he replied. Karen crossed her arms. Our community surrounds the lake, she said. That makes it a community resource. The man stayed calm. That is not how land works, he said. Karen's face turned red. You will hear from our lawyers, she said loudly. The man simply nodded. Have a good day, he replied. Karen was not used to that. She expected fear. She expected arguments. She expected anger. But the man gave her nothing. That made her angry. Over the next week, things got worse. HOA members started walking near the lake. Some tried to peek inside. Some talked about fishing. Some talked about boating. One day, the man saw a sign near the fence. It said, "Future HOA Community Lake Access." The man stared at the sign. That was the moment he knew. This was not a misunderstanding. This was a takeover attempt. The HOA believed they could take control of his lake. They believed rules and pressure would scare him. But they did not know who they were dealing with. The man was quiet. But he was not weak. That night, he went into his old storage room. He opened dusty boxes. He pulled out old papers. Land deeds. Maps. Legal records. Documents older than the HOA itself. He placed them on the table and began reading. Every page told the same story. The lake was his. Fully. Legally. Without question. The HOA had no rights. No authority. No power. The man leaned back in his chair. He did not feel angry. He felt focused. The HOA had made a mistake. A big one. They had pushed the wrong person. And soon, they were going to learn something important. You cannot control what you do not own. And this story was just getting started. Because the HOA thought the lake was theirs. But the law said otherwise. And in the next part, they would regret ever sending that first letter. The lake owner thought things would slow down after that meeting. He was wrong. Very wrong. The HOA did not step back. They stepped forward. And this time, they came louder. 2 days after Karen visited the lake, the man woke up to noise. Not birds. Not wind. Voices. Many voices. He walked toward the lake and stopped. There were people standing near the water. HOA members. Some had fishing rods. Some had chairs. Some had children running around. The man froze. No one had permission to be there. A temporary rope had been tied to the fence. Someone had moved it. The man felt anger rise, but he stayed calm. He walked closer. A man near the water looked at him and smiled. "Beautiful lake," the man said. "HOA told us we can enjoy it now." The lake owner's jaw tightened. "Who told you that?" he asked. "The HOA," the man replied. "They said this is now shared property." The lake owner did not shout. He did not argue. He turned around and walked back to his house. He knew one thing. This was no longer about rules. This was about power. Later that day, another letter arrived. This one was thicker. Inside were multiple pages. It said the HOA had voted. It said the lake must follow HOA decisions. It said refusal would lead to fines of thousands of dollars. At the bottom was Karen's signature. Bold. Confident. Arrogant. The man read every word slowly. Then he placed the letter next to the old documents he had already found. The difference was clear. HOA papers were new. His papers were old. And old papers carry weight. That evening, the man called a lawyer. Not just any lawyer. A property rights lawyer. The lawyer listened quietly. When the man finished, the lawyer spoke. "This HOA has no authority over your land," the lawyer said. "What they are doing is dangerous." The man asked one question. "How dangerous?" The lawyer paused. "Dangerous for them," he said. The man smiled for the first time in days. The next morning, Karen showed up again. This time, she was not alone. 2 HOA board members stood behind her. Both looked nervous. Karen did not. She walked like she owned the ground. "We need to talk now," she said loudly. The man stood on his porch. "This is private property," he said. "You are trespassing." Karen laughed. "You can't stop us," she said. "We represent the community." The man did not move. "You represent houses," he said. "Not my land." Karen stepped closer. "We will fine you every day," she said. "We will make this expensive." The man looked at her calmly. "You are already making it expensive," he replied. Karen did not understand what that meant. She waved her hand. "You have 1 week to comply," she said. "Or we take further action." She turned and walked away. The man watched her leave. He did not feel fear. He felt patience. Because he knew something Karen did not. The HOA had just made another mistake. That week, strange things started happening. HOA workers placed more signs near the lake. They sent emails to residents about lake access hours. They even shared drawings of future docks. The lake owner saved everything. Emails, photos, messages, proof. Then, something unexpected happened. A news reporter contacted him. "Is it true the HOA is opening a community lake?" the reporter asked. The man took a deep breath. "No," he said. "That is not true." The reporter sounded surprised. "But the HOA says." "The HOA is lying," the man said calmly. Silence. The reporter asked for proof. The man smiled. "I have plenty," he said. That night, the HOA held a meeting. Karen spoke with confidence. She told residents the lake would soon belong to everyone. She promised parties, fishing events, kayaking days. People clapped. They believed her. But one person raised a hand. "Is the lake really ours?" someone asked. Karen hesitated. "It will be," she said. That small pause mattered. Because outside that meeting room, the lake owner was preparing. He was not angry. He was organized. He was ready. The next morning, a certified letter was sent. Not from the HOA. From the lawyer. It explained everything. The lake was private. The HOA had no rights. Trespassing would lead to legal action. Karen received the letter at noon. She read it twice. Her face changed. But instead of stopping, she made a choice. A bad one. She decided to prove power. She announced it Community Lake Day. Public. Loud. Planned. The lake owner saw the announcement online. He closed his laptop slowly. "This is it," he said quietly. The HOA had crossed the line. And in the next part, they would learn what happens when confidence meets the law. Because when the community arrived at the lake, they were walking straight into a legal disaster. The HOA believed they were winning. From the outside, it looked that way. They had signs. They had meetings. They had confident words. And the lake owner? He was quiet. Too quiet. Karen saw his silence as weakness. She smiled more. She spoke louder. She pushed harder. What she did not know was this. Silence was not fear. It was a plan. The lake owner spent his days normally. He fed the birds. He walked near the water. He waved politely at neighbors. But at night, everything changed. He sat at his table with papers spread out. Old papers. Legal papers. Maps. Deeds. Each document told a story. The land was purchased before the town even existed. The lake was marked as private water. No shared access. No easements. The words were clear. Very clear. Still, the man wanted more than clarity. He wanted protection. So he made another call. This time, not to a lawyer. To a surveyor. The surveyor arrived early in the morning. He placed flags. He measured land. He checked borders. HOA members watched from a distance. They whispered. "What is he doing?" someone asked. Karen saw the flags and felt nervous. But she hid it. "It means nothing," she told people. "He is trying to scare us." But deep down, she felt something shift. Because people who are scared do not measure land. People who are confident do. 2 days later, metal stakes appeared. Bright. Clear. Each one marked the lake's true boundary. And those boundaries were not close. They were far. Much farther than the HOA expected. Some houses were not near the lake. They were touching it. Karen saw this and felt anger rise. She stormed to the lake with papers in her hand. "This is wrong," she shouted. The lake owner looked at her calmly. "These are official survey markers," he said. "They show reality." Karen shook her head. "Our rules matter more," she said. The man paused. "No," he replied. "They do not." That word hit her hard. No. Not maybe. Not later. Just no. Karen turned red. "You are trying to scare the community," she said. The man smiled slightly. "I am protecting my land," he replied. That same day, HOA emails changed tone. They were no longer friendly. They were threatening. Words like penalties in court appeared. The lake owner saved every message. He did not reply. Because traps do not work if you speak too early. Then something interesting happened. A drone flew over the lake. It hovered. It filmed. It moved slowly. The man watched it from the dock. He knew who sent it. HOA. He took out his phone and recorded the drone. Proof. Later that night, he emailed his lawyer. "They are filming my private property," he wrote. The lawyer replied quickly. "Good," the message said. "Let them." Karen felt pressure building. Residents were asking questions now. Why is he measuring land? Why are there legal letters? Is the lake really private? Karen answered with confidence. "Don't worry," she said. "He is bluffing." But her voice was not as strong anymore. The next HOA meeting was tense. People sat quietly. No clapping. No smiles. One man stood up. "Can we see proof that the lake is ours?" he asked. Karen froze for a second. Then she smiled. "We are working on it," she said. That was not an answer. Outside, the lake owner was still silent. But his silence was loud. More survey flags appeared. More signs went up. Private property. No trespassing. Simple words. Powerful words. One evening, a young couple walked near the lake. They saw the signs and stopped. "I thought the HOA said this was public," the woman said. The man shook his head. "Looks private to me," he replied. That moment mattered. Doubt had entered the community. Karen felt it slipping. So she decided to force control. She planned something bold. Something public. Something loud. She announced an HOA event. Not just a meeting. A celebration. A community lake day. Music. Food. Boats. She believed one thing. If enough people showed up, the lake would become theirs. The lake owner saw the event online. He read the post carefully. He did not react. He did not comment. He did not call. Instead, he printed it. And placed it in a folder. The folder was thick now. Full of proof. He closed the folder and looked at the lake. "It's time," he said softly. Because the HOA had just walked into the trap. And in the next part, they would bring witnesses, cameras, and noise. But they would leave with fines, shame, and regret. Because when Karen chose force over facts, she sealed her own defeat. The morning of the community lake day was bright. Sunlight danced on the water, making it sparkle. Birds sang, unaware of the storm about to hit. Karen arrived first, carrying clipboards, loudspeakers, and her usual confidence. Behind her, a few board members followed, all looking nervous. "This will prove we are right," Karen said loudly. The HOA had invited residents. Some brought chairs. Some brought cameras. Some brought kids. Everyone was excited. Everyone except the lake owner. He watched quietly from a distance, hidden behind trees. No one saw him. He had a plan. Karen started the speeches. She waved her hand toward the lake. "Today, we celebrate our lake," she shouted. "Everyone can fish, swim, and enjoy. It belongs to the community." People cheered. Some ran toward the water. Boats were pushed into the lake. Fishing lines hit the water. Children splashed loudly. Karen smiled, proud. She believed she had won. But she did not notice something. The lake owner had called the police before the event started. He had sent copies of all documents, surveys, and old deeds proving the lake was private. He had even filmed the HOA setting up signs and letting people in without permission. Police were on their way. Karen did not know this. She laughed as residents waved and posed for pictures. Then the first officer arrived. A small uniformed man walked quietly toward Karen. "Excuse me," he said. "Are you the person in charge here?" Karen straightened. "Yes," she said proudly. The officer showed his badge. "Ma'am, I have a complaint regarding trespassing on private property." Karen froze. The crowd looked confused. "What complaint?" she asked. "The lake is private," the officer said calmly. "I need to ask everyone to leave immediately." The crowd murmured. Karen's face turned red. She whispered something to the board members. They looked worried. Karen tried to argue. "This is a community event," she said. "We have permission." "You do not," the officer interrupted. "Property owner has documentation. Everyone must leave." The lake owner stepped forward quietly. He showed the officer the old deeds and survey maps. He had everything ready. Karen opened her mouth, but no words came out. Residents started looking around. Some realized they were on private property. The boats were pulled back to the shore. Fishing lines were reeled in. The noise stopped. Karen tried to keep control. She waved her hands. She shouted instructions. She demanded apologies. But no one listened. The officer was calm. The lake owner was calm. Karen realized too late that she had underestimated him. One of the HOA board members whispered, "Maybe we should have listened." Karen ignored him. She stormed to the lake owner. "You can't do this," she shouted. "This lake should belong to the community." The lake owner looked at her. Calm. Collected. "And you are trespassing," he said. "That is a crime." Karen's face turned white. She stumbled backward. The officer wrote a warning. "This is your only notice," he said. "Any further entry without permission will result in fines and legal action." Karen tried one last time. She shouted at the residents. "Don't listen to him. The HOA is in charge." The residents looked confused. Some left quietly. Some whispered, "Maybe he is right." Karen's confidence shattered. She could not understand how one quiet man could stop her. While she had all the noise, all the people, and all the plans. She realized something. Power is not about noise. It is about facts. And she had none. The lake owner smiled slightly. No one cheered. No one clapped. The lake was calm again, as if nothing had happened. Karen and her team left angrily. The board members looked defeated. The community watched silently. For the first time, Karen felt fear. Not of the law. Not of the police. But of the quiet man who owned a 2,100-acre lake. The HOA had made a mistake. A very big mistake. And they had no idea how far it would go. The lake owner returned to his house. He sat on his porch. He watched the water. He knew this was only the beginning. Because the HOA had lost more than control that day. They had lost their image. Their power. Their authority. And the man knew one thing clearly. When people underestimate quiet confidence, they are asking for trouble. The next part would bring the final showdown. Proofs, fines, and the ultimate humiliation for Karen and her team. And the lake owner? He was ready. The lake had always been quiet. Peaceful. Calm. But that calm was about to change. The HOA thought they were in control. Karen believed her plans were working. But she was about to face something she had never imagined. The morning started like any other. Sunlight spilled across the 2,100-acre lake. Mist hovered over the water. Birds sang. And then, the first knock came. Not from Karen. Not from the HOA members. It was from the local police. 2 officers walked slowly toward the lake. Official. Serious. Karen appeared at the fence, smiling nervously. "We called you about trespassing," she said quickly. "They have been ignoring HOA rules." The police officer looked at her calmly. Then at the lake owner. Then back at the papers she held. "Ma'am," the officer said slowly, "these documents say you have no right to access this property without permission." Karen's smile froze. Her confident words caught in her throat. The lake owner stepped forward. He held up the old deeds and survey markers. "Everything here is legal," he said. "No one can trespass on my land, including the HOA." The officers nodded. Karen's shoulders sank. The board members behind her shifted uncomfortably. This was the moment the power shifted. The HOA had thought rules on paper could scare a private landowner. They had thought fines and threats could intimidate him. They had been wrong. The officers explained the consequences. Trespassing could lead to legal fines. Breaking private property laws could mean jail time. Karen swallowed hard. Her voice was trembling. This is a misunderstanding," she said. The lake owner smiled slightly. "Not a misunderstanding," he replied calmly. "Just the law." And that law was on his side. After the police left, Karen and her team tried to regroup. They whispered among themselves. "Maybe we can still win them over." But the lake owner was prepared. He had not only legal papers, but also photos, emails, and videos. Every HOA threat, every trespass, every false claim had been recorded. He had created an unstoppable shield. The next day, he sent copies to the HOA members. Every email. Every photo. Every violation. The reaction was immediate. Board members panicked. Some called each other quietly. Some even considered resigning. Karen tried to maintain control. She called a meeting to calm everyone down. But her words were weak. The confidence she once had was gone. The community had started noticing. Neighbors who had cheered for Karen now asked questions. Why is the police involved? Who really owns the lake? Are we in trouble? Karen had no answers. The lake owner, on the other hand, remained calm. He walked along the water, watching ducks glide across the surface. He waved politely at neighbors. He smiled quietly. The HOA members were beginning to realize a harsh truth. No matter how loud they were, no matter how many threats they made, they could not control what was not theirs. And the lake owner? He had turned silence into power, calm into strategy, documents into victory. By the end of the week, the shift was complete. Karen's name no longer carried weight. The board members avoided confrontation. The lake owner had all the respect and legal authority. For the first time, the lake was truly calm. The water reflected the sky. Birds sang without fear. Even the wind seemed to whisper, "This is private land." Karen had tried to push, to intimidate, to control. And yet, she had failed. The lake owner had done nothing aggressive. No shouting. No fights. No threats. He had waited. Prepared. Used the law. And in that quiet, strategic patience, he had won. The power shift was complete. From that day forward, the HOA knew something very important. Not all battles can be won with noise and rules. Some battles require patience, evidence, and calm strength. And the lake? It remained exactly as it had always been. Private. Peaceful. Untouchable. Karen learned a lesson she would never forget. And the lake owner? He continued walking along the shore, smiling quietly, knowing he had protected a 2,100-acre legacy without ever raising his voice. Karen thought she could recover. She believed the board members would follow her. She believed the community still respected her. She was wrong. By now, the lake owner had all the proof he needed. Every trespass. Every false claim. Every threatening email. And he had not shown all of it yet. The morning started quietly. The sun rose over the 2,100-acre lake, casting golden light across the water. The lake owner was already preparing. He called his lawyer and explained the plan. It was simple, but powerful. The HOA would be exposed completely. By noon, certified letters arrived at Karen's house and the HOA office. Every board member received the same documents. Inside, photos of trespassing members, copies of all threatening letters, the legal survey showing the true boundaries of the lake, official property deeds proving ownership, evidence of false claims made to residents. Karen opened her envelope slowly. Her hands shook. Her eyes widened. The lawyer's letter inside was short, but sharp. You are in violation of property law. Immediate action is required. Failure to comply will result in fines and legal consequences. Her first instinct was to argue, to yell, to call a meeting. But she couldn't. Every step she had taken against the lake owner was now documented. Every threat, every trespass, every attempt to manipulate had been recorded. She was cornered. The HOA board members gathered at the office. Some were pale. Some were whispering. Some avoided eye contact with Karen. No one knew what to do. Then the first fine arrived. A heavy one. Thousands of dollars. Then another. And another. The lake owner had not only defended his land. He had turned the tables completely. Karen tried to negotiate. She called the lake owner. "Let's talk," she said. "Maybe we can settle this." The lake owner listened politely. Then replied calmly. "Everything is already settled. You need to follow the law. And your actions have consequences." Karen was speechless. The community started noticing. Residents who had once cheered for HOA control were confused. Some whispered to each other, "Is the HOA really allowed to do all this? Why is Karen so quiet now?" The lake owner did not react. He continued walking along the shore, watching the water ripple under the wind. He smiled quietly. The HOA realized they had been exposed. Karen's threats had backfired. Her attempts to control the lake had resulted in legal fines, public shame, and complete loss of authority. The board members had no choice. They sent letters of apology to the lake owner. They promised never to enter the property again. They agreed to cover all legal fees. Karen's name, once powerful in the community, lost its weight. People stopped listening to her. Her confidence shattered. Her influence gone. The lake owner had not needed to yell. He had not needed to fight. He had simply used patience, evidence, and the law. The final blow was quiet but complete. The lake was safe. The lake was private. The HOA's power was gone. From that day forward, the community learned an important lesson. Power comes from proof, not noise. Confidence and patience can defeat arrogance. You cannot control what does not belong to you. The lake owner walked along the shore one last time that day. The water reflected the sky. Birds flew above. Everything was calm again. Karen never tried to interfere with the lake again. The board members became cautious. And the 2,100-acre lake remained untouched, protected, and peaceful. The lake owner smiled quietly to himself. He had won. Not with anger. Not with force. But with calm, smart strategy and the law. And Karen. She had learned the hardest lesson of all. Some battles are not meant to be fought with power. Some battles are meant to be lost by those who underestimate patience. The final blow had landed. And the lake? It was untouchable. The lake was quiet. Truly quiet. After weeks of chaos, threats, and drama, the 2,100-acre lake finally returned to its natural rhythm. The HOA, once loud and arrogant, had disappeared from its shores. Karen's name was now a whisper in the community, and the board members had learned a very simple, very harsh truth. You cannot control what is not yours. The lake owner walked along the shore early one morning. The water shimmered in the sunlight. Birds called out across the sky. Even the wind seemed to move in celebration. He paused, looking at the old wooden dock. It had been untouched during the entire HOA struggle. A small smile appeared on his face. He remembered the first letter Karen had sent. The first threatening call. The first attempt to impose rules on his private property. At the time, it had felt like a storm. But storms have a way of revealing who is strong and who is weak. He walked further along the water. He could see the survey markers still in place. The metal stakes reminded everyone of the truth. This land was private. This lake was private. And no HOA, no matter how confident or loud, could change that. The community, too, had learned. Some neighbors approached the fence quietly, curious at first. Then they nodded in respect, seeing the boundary markers and the private properties signs. Some whispered apologies for believing Karen's claims. The lake owner did not need to respond. His silence had always spoken louder than words. Later that week, he made one final move. He installed permanent signs around the lake. Private property, no HOA authority. Trespassers will be prosecuted. Simple words. Clear message. Permanent protection. The HOA attempted nothing after that. No letters. No threats. No public events. Karen had learned the lesson too late. Control through arrogance is fragile. Evidence, law, and patience are stronger. The lake owner spent the next days restoring the land. Clearing debris from trespassing. Checking the docks. Ensuring the wildlife was safe. And as he walked the lake one evening, he felt something rare, peace. Not just for him, but for the land itself. The lake reflected the sky perfectly. Every ripple, every bird, every leaf in the water felt like a reminder. Nature, law, and patience had triumphed over greed and control. The final lesson was simple, but powerful. Never let loud, controlling people dictate what belongs to you. Evidence, patience, and calm strategy are more powerful than threats or noise. Protect what is yours, quietly but firmly. And sometimes, silence speaks louder than 1,000 arguments. The community eventually respected the lake boundaries completely. Karen faded into the background. Board members became careful, cautious, and quiet. The 2,100-acre lake remained untouchable. Protected. Peaceful. And the lake owner? He continued to walk its shores, a quiet guardian of his family legacy. His victory was not flashy. Not loud. It was complete, silent, and unshakable. The water reflected the sunset as he stood at the edge. The fight was over. The HOA had lost. The lake had won. And the story of how arrogance tried to control a private paradise and failed spectacularly would be remembered for years. The final message for anyone listening, watching, or reading this story: some battles do not require shouting. Some victories are quiet. Some legacies, like the lake, are worth protecting no matter what others try. The HOA tried. They failed. And the lake remained, as it always had, untouchable and free. The 2,100-acre lake stood calm, silent, and eternal. A reminder that respect, law, and patience always triumph over arrogance.
More feelings are coming. Like, subscribe, and don't miss them.